Welcome to Big Blend Radio, where we celebrate variety and how it adds spice to quality of life.
Are you happy in a universe where the brightest star is you? Do you notice when I'm missing?
Hey everyone, so excited today to welcome Philadelphia, New Hope artist, Stephen DiJoseph. Now, if I'm pronouncing his last name wrong, you can come after me. It's okay. But he just signed with Deko Entertainment, which is cool. We've had artists from Deko Entertainment on the show, and they obviously know good talent. His new album is out now. It's Songs, Dreams, Circumstance. 4 songs, Dreams, Circumstance. And I think this is an amazing album that you need to hear. So I encourage you to go to his website, Stephen DiJoseph. That's DIJoseph.com. Did I say it right, Stephen? Welcome.
You nailed it right on the head, Lisa. Thank you.
Oh, and I'm interviewing you while I have a fever. So, it feels good. Yeah. You know what? Maybe it is midlife. Maybe I'm just having hot flashes and I don't know.
Well, it makes for a hot interview.
Yeah, right on. Yeah. This is cool. It
Yeah.
could be good. But no, I think this is so, listening to your music, and Nancy and I are like, dude, I think, we've heard about you before, and this album to me is just special. It's a very, I encourage people you can stream it, you can buy it, but I encourage you to be in a place where you can really listen. To me, it's headsets, because we travel full time and everything. And if I could put on an album, like a vinyl, I'd love it. But it is a very, touching album. Does that make sense? It's touching.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that assessment, because, all those songs represent probably 30 years of my life. When I decided when I got with Deko to bring these songs forward, to make a new collection of these various songs. Some were released, some were not. I just felt that these songs deserved the light of day, if you will, in a bigger way. And Deko has given me that opportunity with the Warner Music ADA distribution. And, so I'm like, I gotta, this has to happen. So.
What with Warner Music, does that help you because I know that you do film too, right? So
yeah. I would say video. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Does that help you on that side as well? Like, will your music go further afield in regards to soundtracks and things like that, do you think?
Yeah, that would be, because I think every artist likes there. That. Yeah. I certainly feel it has that. I mean, lots of people have heard it and said, yeah, soundtrack, I can hear, So, for one thing, there's a show in a small way right now. It's a show in Philadelphia on WHYY called You Ought to Know. And, they're going to be using, the tracks minus the vocals, because they use instrumental music, but a lot of licensing can take place with taking the songs and pulling the vocal for the purpose of the film project, So, any way you want to spin my music is okay with me.
Well, I love your music.
Thank
I
you.
was listening to it and I'm like, dude, this is cool. And then I was like, oh crap, I got to get there to the interview on time, because I'm enjoying it. Nancy and I have been listening to it, and we watched, I told you about this before we recorded, watching you play Run Around, on your YouTube channel, and
Roundabout.
I mean, Roundabout. Sorry. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's a runaround too.
Run Around, Roundabout. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I could tell you just a real brief story. I heard how, I like looking into the behind the scenes of a song, of course. And John Anderson was talking about how they wrote Roundabout, and they literally were traveling, and they would go, they would start singing, "We'll be the roundabout," as they're going around roundabouts. I'm going, oh my God, really? It's like, and then in around the lake and the mountains come out of the sky and they're driving along and they're looking at all this stuff where they're on tour. So it was funny to hear the way the
That's
song.
my style. That's my style. But you
That's
did
your
it
style.
you're playing piano, right? And it is a runabout. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it is a
Roundabout.
runabout.
I
Yeah,
now I'm like totally messed up, but it's all good.
it's
I'm
good.
not unfamiliar with yes people. I'm just a little
Yeah,
sick. But
yeah, yeah.
but to you, for you to take that on,
Mm.
I was like, Nancy, you got to hear this. Then I'm bringing her in. I'm like, you got to check this out and watch this, because he's playing this and you got the prolific points and everything, but it's beautiful. And then I said, now look at what the original was,
Mm.
which she
Hmm.
knows. And so
Hmm.
we did this comparison today. Sorry.
Oh,
I
that's
made me
very cool.
sick. I'm sorry, everybody. I got the flu recording this, but we looked at and we were like, it was this beautiful piece that what you've done is the stripped down, but real joints of the yet soft
Hmm.
and
Hmm. Hmm.
still has that drive. That song has drive, as you know.
Drive.
I mean,
Yes,
it's a
it
drive.
does.
It does.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're like, holy, whatever. And, so it to me was amazing what you did. And what blew me away, honestly,
Hmm.
about your playing of that piece is that you had bass that, I mean, tell me
Yeah.
about that part because the bass
Ah,
to me in that song is so important.
it's
Tell me
so
about
important.
that piece, right? You get what I mean? Like the bass.
100%. Oh, Chris Squire, what a monster. I mean, I grew up with listening to him from I guess age 15 on, and, so my favorite rhythm section was Bill Bruford. Well, yes, Bill Bruford and Chris Squire. And just, when you have a great bass player and a drummer, it's really hard to go wrong. So these guys, Chris was such a brilliant, orchestrator and of bass lines that, I was like, the way I wanted to honor that song, I was like, I'm going to learn the entire piece because I'm going to be playing it for aficionados. And I want to be sure that I have an
Mm.
arrangement that holds water. And so what I ended up doing was sort of using a bit of a stride piano. I said, this is going to be on the piano. I'm not duplicating the song. I'm making a
Mm-hmm.
piano arrangement. So being a classical jazz pop pianist, I spent time working out the left hand. And so this rolling sort of stride style fit as an interpretation. I felt, that, and I've had two people who know Anderson and have worked with him really appreciate it. So I was like, okay, I guess I hit the mark,
Because is that what helps with the bass too? Because
Well,
I
yeah,
feel like if you don't, because
yeah.
you can have piano music, which you can go all twinkly,
Uh-huh,
and
sure,
if you
sure.
don't do the bass correctly, there's like you and that run. So that's what the stride is that run and the
So
bass together.
stride piano was, I'm going to say Fats Waller, James P. Johnson back in the
Sweet.
20s, 30s, 40s. These
Fats
guys,
Waller is one of the best.
oh my God, these guys, they were
Dude.
just, they used to have, 48-hour piano marathons where all the pianists would gather, I think in Harlem, I believe. And they would
Yeah.
gather and,
Mhm.
one guy's left hand is going while the other guy's right hand. And then they switch and that guy would take over. And then they just that piano got worked for 48 hours straight.
But they had dynamics, and
That
that is the
dynamics.
key. The
Yes.
dynamics. You can do all the fast runs. It's like technical guitar, right? Here's
Right.
your technical guitarist. Let me go for it and let me show you I got the technical stuff. I got this. But if you don't have the dynamic, I think something's happening with me with this fever thing. But
You're catching something good.
if you don't have dynamics, you ain't got nothing.
That's right. Dynamics are crucial.
And you
Dynamics are
do. I
crucial.
mean, that's what Nancy and I were like, wow, because at this point, someone's singing and you're taking also the vocal part
Yes.
in doing the piano. And
Right.
that was the other part. I'm like, dude, no way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
Right in the middle where he's singing softly, where, just the flutes are going. Wakeman
mhm.
was playing, and he's singing around the lake, and he's real soft. So I just switched the hand so that the right hand could do the
Wow.
arpeggiation, and the left hand would take the melody. And that's, those are classical approaches
I love
the
it.
basis of classical. So, and anyway, that's just,
I
yeah.
talk about this about progressive rock. Like when I was
Yeah.
listening to this, because this stuff that I've written too as a musician
Ah,
and writer, and
uh-huh.
I've never gotten there with it because there's all this stuff in my head. And I looked at it and it says today, literally right before this interview, and I said, that's what I was supposed to do with my music was do prog rock. And I didn't understand.
Interesting. Not too late.
No, it's never too late.
Never. Yeah.
Um, Prog rock, I didn't understand that part of it. Like
Uh-huh.
I didn't get what prog rock until Billy, he said to me,
Billy's. Yeah.
great musicians and
Yeah.
everyone. I'm always going like, but you guys are always about positive, good stuff for the earth and humanity. I always thought that too. So there's a progressive political party, which that's not what I'm talking about today, but I
Mm-hmm.
do believe that the two hold hands in
Yeah.
music and in the sign of the times of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
prog rock has always kind of gone, hey, we can always do this elevation and we can implement multiple genres of music. I think this is, but
Yes.
you know what? I like being sick now. I'm
You're awesome. That's
feverish
great.
and on the top of the world. You can
That's fantastic.
finally have
Yeah.
multiple genres put together, just like humanity should,
Beautiful. It's a beautiful
and
way to
time
put it.
of now.
A
Because
fusion of,
prog rock is about fusion, isn't it? It's
it
kind of
is.
interesting.
Very
Now,
much is. Yeah, fusion music. Fusion covers a lot of styles. I mean, it's interesting. We think of jazz fusion, but it's two words, jazz and fusion, or, so the fusion of styles has been a thing developing for a long time. And I'm all about it. That's consequently why I have what I call a multiple genre disorder. I would get on stage and people are like, what's he doing? Like
yeah.
I'm singing or I'm playing guitar, playing the piano, got
Mm.
these long pieces of these songs. And I was like, well, let's tie this together and explain. I got this disorder and I got to go in all these directions, but I promise I'll fill you in.
But that's the big blend concept.
Yeah. The
Everybody
big
wants us to
blend.
be
There we go.
only
That's
be
why I'm
business.
here.
You do a business interview the next day and musician people follow us and they're like, oh, what the, you have a
Yeah.
business interview the next day. Yeah. Because musicians also need to know business and so do you,
Yeah.
so it's like, stop it. We have different ways for you. By the way, for listeners, there's different ways you can follow playlists and shows and everything. So, we're
Yeah.
getting there on that, but, I want to say this about your music. You have a sensibility and strength in your sound. To me, I love people to listen and enjoy the music without anything from me saying whatever, because it sucks when someone tells you what they hear and listen. But there's a strength.
Thank you.
Songs,
Thanks.
Dreams, Circumstance. I love the title of that
Yeah.
because it's real. That's real life to me.
Yeah. It fit, Lisa, because I was reflecting on these songs and all the stuff, how they came, and the time between, the big first song till now. And so it reflected half of my life. I was like, songs, dreams, circumstance. That seems to be really where it is for me. These songs come out of these dreams, whether they're daydreams or, sleeping dreams, and the circumstance, instead of plural circumstances, it was kind of circumstance is something we're all in at all the time. There's a circumstance that exists. So for me, it was a singular joining of all the circumstances, basically. You get that? It makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. It is because that's what it is. And there's always a little bump and a little
Yes.
spark that's going to happen, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Things that you don't imagine. So let's talk a little bit about some of the songs. I want to talk about To Be Found a
Okay.
little bit because that felt like this. It is strong, but weak the song is not weak, but it goes from like strength to weakness at the same time in the sound. Does that make sense?
Like, so in other words, there's a gentleness to it.
but it's still like a reality wake up call. Like you can't,
It
it's not
was,
wish.
yeah.
Yeah.
There
Tell us
was
about
something.
that.
I mean, what
See, I'm
was
not supposed to talk about the song. See,
okay. Well, I could just tell you the essence of, the that was one of my more literal songs, in that I literally was walking in the city as the lights came on, and I crossed the street to see this man painting he was in the doorway, and he was clearly homeless or living roughly on the street or something, and there he was painting. And I was like, it was amazing. And I wanted to give him something, an appreciation. And he was like, no, I do this for God. And that's like, it just really, at that time, it really just hit me in a big way. And I was just like, it just felt like something should come about musically from that experience. So it did. And the idea was, of course, that he was representing, like the chorus is, you may see me as a boy in trouble, a man in distress, a nation in darkness, a people oppressed. And no matter what we see, we still share common ground. And that was really, to me, the big spiritual message of the song.
well, the song, your album is, I don't want to say stripped down, but it's really raw and real, you
Mm.
know. So you can connect immediately. So I know we talked about prog rock, but I could see the album going that way in a
Yes.
different way, right? This
Yes.
is like,
Yes.
does that make sense? Like it's almost like an acoustic version of prog rock?
Yeah.
Like,
That's kind of what I ended up, stylistic, genre wise. I was like
oh,
progressive folk, alternative pop,
but it's, you get to core of life. And when you can just sit and listen, that's why I say for me, Nancy and I were listening, but I was like, nah, I got to put the headset on for this. This is good
Nice. That makes me
because
very
it
happy.
really, yeah, it's so connective. And I think, it feels good in the times, we're in a new year, right?
Yeah.
Yay. Hooray. And yet at the same
Hooray.
time, but the new year feels good even though it's really crappy out there. I mean, there's some
A lot of
bad
weird
stuff going on in the
things. Yeah.
world, really bad stuff. And we've got climate change and we've got all these things, right? But
Yeah.
you have to have reprieve, and music does that. And sometimes the simplicity of it all just feels good. It just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, and because as soon as I listen to your album, I'm like, all right, leave me alone. I always tell people, Nancy knows that, just leave me alone. I'm listening now. And that's
Reflective.
that.
Yeah.
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 And I
Yeah.
think this album is very much one for listening. I think it's personal. Yes, you can share it with friends and everything. You can have it as background music if you want. But, I feel it's very personal. Was it for you? I mean, you said it's like over 30 years. What, to put it together?
Yeah. Well, when I say that, it was on other, like various songs were on other albums. One album was not really promoted. It was supported by a collection of fans that put money into it. But it didn't get out as far and wide and then the second album was called Hypnotized. That got around and that got reviewed. But I felt that these songs really need to come forward and be remastered and be released as a new collection of stuff and from a new angle. And, so when I connected with Deko, as I mentioned, I thought, well, this is the opportunity to do, because I was in my mind, I think your mind sets up things that are coming in some way or other. I don't know how it works, but I feel like I've been thinking a long time, these are my kids and I want them to have a broader life. And, so I'm going to put this collection together. So lo and behold, Deko comes along, and then the opportunity to release something that way. I thought, well, this is the time then. This is the time.
Because
It is they're all very personal. Like some of those songs are, if we were to go into each song, like some are, they're sort of painful because I was working through difficult stuff. I knew people who had been in difficult situations and like gone so far as, very sensitive thing about child abuse. And it's so, I don't know that I'm going to write these things. I don't plan them, but things come out and they're expressed, and then I follow it,
Well, I think when you don't write about things, it's going to bug you as a musician or a creative person.
I think
Whether you're a
so.
writer or a painter or, as a creative person, the creative people are, sentient beings in my mind of
Yeah. Yeah.
being sensitive to what's going on around, and they tell the times.
Right.
They
Agreed.
do.
Agreed.
They tell the true
Yes.
history because there's an integrity. When you're talking about an artist who isn't being um told what to do, and a true artist doesn't be told what to do, right? So, like signing with Deko, this is a good relationship. As far as I know from other artists and stuff that hey, they've accepted what you did already. So there's no like
Yeah. Yeah.
you can't do this or can't do that. And I
Right.
think we're
Right.
all
Yeah.
learning, even as music lovers, like the labels that want to do that, screw you. It's not happening, you know?
Well, yeah.
I
I
hope anyway.
right. Right. Yeah. I think what I've learned, I've never been, well, maybe in like early, like 90, 91, I got with a little new age music label that was doing, connecting music to self-help ideas.
Mm.
And but I created this album that was, they were like, well, maybe it's a little too musical. I thought, well, I don't know,
Oh,
but it worked for them and they did it. But, so it was called A Quiet Time, and it was very
no, you weren't
orchestral.
quiet.
Yeah. Well, it was very orchestral and very, I went after
Hmm.
that sort of Aaron Copland, sort of
Mm.
kind of thing with it. But, they liked it and it circulated and, later on surfaced. And I like bringing pieces forward if they haven't had enough of a life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting about that concept of like then a label can go, okay, we know what we're doing and
Yeah.
everybody's on the same page. Maybe that is the way, it's just flipping the industry a little bit, and Deco seems from what I've, just on shows here, like they seem really cool and the
They are
people
cool.
getting
Yeah.
with them are like, they're like, no, this is a good independent source and place.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's important. I
I
think,
appreciate the vision they have is like, talking with Bruce and Charlie, there's a vision there to, bring something, another level of
mm,
entertainment and, musical, expression, story, like
mm,
they do these really cool, I think for Blue Oyster Cult, they did this thing. They brought forward Imaginos was the big album, that one of their flagship albums. And they did a whole, Bruce did a whole, I want to call it a comic strip, but it's not, it's like, it's a comic strip type of approach in that it's in a booklet, but it's got the scan codes and
mm.
you're hearing this, you're reading the story and you're looking at the images and you hit the QR and you get the song, so
Right.
it's just really cool. I
I
would
think
like
we're
some,
getting, I love that they're adopting into, or not adapting, but,
yeah,
getting in. Oh, we're in such a weird world right now that we
yeah,
do actually want physical stuff
right.
as like that's our special piece, whether it's vinyl or a
Yeah.
CD. I mean,
I'm amazed at that. Yeah.
we travel full time and I'm holding on to our car as long as we can
Yeah.
because she has a CD
Ah, I
thing
love
and
CD
the CD
players. I
player
really
doesn't
do.
barely plays. Like I have to talk to it, do some weird jigglies. But then
Yeah.
isn't that what we all did as teenagers with,
Yeah.
tapes and had to cut them up and tape them back
Tape.
together, put them in the freezer to freeze it
Right,
back into
right.
place? All of it, right? And
Yes.
that's what, so to me, we're on this permanent road trip. So I'm like, oh, we are, no, if she had a tape deck, we would be set.
Oh my God, the 8-track.
Well, I don't have that. I'm not there yet. I was in
Yeah, I get
Africa.
it.
I don't think we even had 8 tracks at that
Oh
time,
man.
but,
Yeah.
but we had tapes, and to me, the tape was, I mean, it was surgical. It was like I mean, I don't even know how we knew how to edit tape on
Isn't
a
that
tape,
amazing?
but we did. We taped it back together, hoping we didn't hit that spot. When you
Uh-huh,
go
uh-huh.
on like, digital recording and we
Yes.
can just snip and cut, I go, we didn't know what the hell we were doing back then,
No, right,
but
right.
we
Yeah.
did. I mean, I'm talking about from the listener perspective of taking care of a tape, but
Uh-huh.
not the recording aspect. I get it. I
You,
still don't know how the hell you guys all did that stuff back
it's
then.
amazing to me. Yeah, I mean, editing film, editing music, these guys with the razors. Yeah, they're incredible. They really, they led us into, what is a digital medium now. I mean,
I do like
it
that.
all
I
kind of
do like the film. I do. I'm sorry. I do. I like the old school. And
I
I have to
know.
say, they must have really swore. I mean, when the door was closed, you know that their language was not good at
Yeah,
anybody.
if they cut it the wrong way, it's like you can't
Or having
undo.
to cut it. You're like, you're
Yeah,
making me cut. Like,
yeah, right. Yeah,
it's like
yeah. That's
having
all.
a
When they cut that scene
vasectomy.
out. Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, sorry, everybody. I'm sick. That's my excuse. And it's true. I want to talk to you about No Chance,
No
the song
chance.
on your album. You
Hmm.
have two versions. So
Yes.
tell us, oh, I love the song, but tell everybody about it.
Well, okay. So no chance. So you heard. Let's see. So you heard the acoustic version, and then you heard the electric version.
And the electric version is on the CD only, and I don't have that. So I
Okay.
don't know about that.
Okay. So
Yes.
well, okay. You will then. I'll send that along. But let's put it. So what happened was I had written the version you've heard. I wrote
Hmm.
that and recorded it in my studio. And I called it Rough Cut because that's what it was. I was like creating that piece and I wanted sort of, I guess like a Van Morrison vibe. And I was kind of playing with that idea with the upright bass and piano and the vocals. And, then, just the way the words came together, you know, she lives like a cat with 9 lives, dancing on the razor's edge of sharp knife. So the idea was the guys, I mean, people think it's a guy trying to meet a woman, but it's really a person dealing with an unruly cat, literally.
Yep.
And the way they have their own way, they do what they want. So it kind of was just, I wanted to play with that and make people think, which is this, So
Yeah, but that is how cats are.
that is, I guess, yes.
We know.
Yeah.
We travel full time and hang out with animals, and
Yeah. You get
it's
the
like
whole view. Yeah.
normally we do Zoom, these recordings and Zoom video, and everyone's seeing like Lisa's still in the same shirt. Yes, I do wash my shirts, but I hang out with animals every day, and there's
Yeah.
nothing fancy about it. But cats have walked across our screen, and they will own your computer. They will
Yeah.
tell you when to turn the TV on, when they want their food. I mean, the demands, they are,
It's
high
time.
end.
It's
They're
time.
high end little queens and
Yeah. Right.
kings.
Right. Uh-huh. Yeah.
They are. But I love them.
Well,
So with
yeah.
you, d- tell me about your musicality, because you're talking about, I mean, we watched, the runaround. Did I do the roundabout,
Yeah.
runaround? I'm not going to get it
Yeah.
right now.
All those abouts and
Yeah,
a
you
lot of
did all
other
that,
things.
but
Yeah.
that was on piano.
Yes.
And so, of course, we all know if you can play the piano, you can go into any instrument pretty much, because you're really getting the backbone, right? It's
I think so. That's my
those,
opinion for sure.
yeah. But how many instruments do you play? Because you were talking about guitar, you were talking about other things. Like, how many instruments do you play?
Essentially piano and guitar. I did get into percussion. Somebody gave me a doumbek for my birthday years ago.
Oh, cool.
And I got into that. But then, of course, playing, it's interesting playing with loops and also being able to trigger percussive sounds. I actually, the first thing I played was a drum pad. And when I was in like, I don't know, 5th grade or something, they gave me a drum pad and I was playing with the drum pad. And there was a teacher with a little class of kids with drum pads, like just whacking that away at the little rubber pad with the sticks and that, so I got, but as soon as I heard, piano or organ, as it were,
Mm.
Three Dog Night,
Yeah,
Chicago,
yeah.
Blood, Sweat and Tears.
Mm,
And then when I hit on Yes, that was just,
mm.
that was it because I wanted classical music. And then I got into what is the,
Wow.
what is the basis of prog rock, really? When you think about it,
It is the bass because you got the bass. I think you should
yeah,
be a bass
bass,
player too.
bass
Do you
player,
play
yeah.
the bass guitar?
Well, I have fiddled with it. I took the regular guitar, well, I should say seriously in the sense that I got a really good acoustic guitar and I started to create arrangements on there. I kind of followed in the footsteps of someone who's named Michael Hedges, if you know that name or not.
Yes.
Yeah, masterful player. He passed away way too young, but he touched a lot of people with his approach. He wasn't the first, I'm sure, because I heard Joan Armatrading, if I could go
Hmm.
back further,
Yeah. Oh, Joan is
nailing
like,
like when you made,
oh,
wow, just
yeah, yeah. But you know what it is? It is
yeah,
because it's the anchor. It is
yes,
the
the anchor,
foundation, right? And she's
yeah,
like, and I think that's what's so beautiful about this album too. Songs, Dreams, Circumstance, everybody, the album. That this is a very, like I said, not raw, like it's raw, but it's refined raw.
yeah,
It's,
yeah, yeah. That's a good way
it,
to put
it
it.
is, yeah, it is, you are going to sink in immediately and just put your headset on or just, yeah, you can play it, but like get in it. Um,
Nice,
because
yeah.
it's personable and the bass part, I think you understand that. So that's where you understand simplicity by understanding bass. You understand simplicity. So you
Hmm.
know where to put the dynamic of the flower part. That doesn't
Yes,
sound,
that's
is that
well put.
weird?
I know I get what you're saying. I knew what you meant, so that's what counts. How,
Okay.
how,
Thanks
how
for helping me
basically,
through this interview.
yeah.
This is
It's
fun.
it's it's taking the base, the basic like the chord structure, and then expanding it, filling it out with orchestration and whatever. Like people think orchestration, well, you mean an orchestra? No, it means when you orchestrate something, you just select the instruments you want, and that's what gives it particular artist's
Hmm.
approach to. So you're going to have low end and middle and high end, and those are going to be percussive instruments and strings and synthesizers and all kinds of stuff ends up in songs. But I felt that, I think because of where I come from, my roots, like songs were, I approached them. I'm writing a song, I'm a songwriter, and I'm also an ethereal pianist and keyboardist. So
Hmm.
those elements I think end up influencing. I think the elements you have in your background end up influencing or here or in your ear, they end up
Hmm.
influencing what you're creating. So
Oh,
that's,
I
yeah,
love it. I
yeah.
love that. I love that because you know, there's, I want people to understand, like for those getting into the industry now of music, and I do say it's an industry. Sorry, that sucks, but it's true.
Yeah, it is.
Um, you have to remember it's still a business if you're going to get along
Yes.
with it, right? Um, but going into the inspiration part is you can go to multiple instruments. You can do things. We have more tools now as
Mhm. Mhm.
songwriters than we ever had. We may
Yeah.
have not the labels being well, I think in a weird way, the labeling is getting better. I think the shift is like what you're doing with Deco Records. I think
Mhm.
we're getting better. Honestly, when you
Nice.
look at it all,
Like
it's
refining.
just about we have to change our mindset of what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
Because
good way to
everybody
put it.
goes, oh, we want the big label. It's the same thing as writers. Oh, we
Mhm.
want the big publisher. Well, the big publishers, do you really want them? Do you want them to tell you to take out every word in your book, and only write what they want because they think that's what's sellable?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I
I mean,
think
yeah.
we're in a very trippy world right now, but if you
Yeah.
don't stay true to your core, and yes, you can fix things that maybe you could get better at. That's a truth. Everyone can fix things, fall down, fix, learn,
Mhm.
from fall downs, but we're in a place where we can't fall down and go, oh, holy, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, beep, beep, beep. And let me do this, but still stay true to your integrity. It's just a really harder road, but it's better in the end, in a way.
Well, yeah, I look around, over these many years, and I said, well, I guess, I chose to try. I was always looking for a different change in my chords or a different something, doing something. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that as far as originality, but I think I think sometimes being original or approaching something like I don't want to go to that chord. I want to go to this chord. I want to do this thing a little different. I think it's not.
No, you can't go you can't set out saying, I'm going to write an original song. The song comes to you, you start writing it and, right. Is that what, am I on that track?
I guess what I mean is in terms of, going in, like, I would always hear when something sounds like another song I've heard, like, oh, that sounds like this song. Oh, that sounds like that song. And then sometimes I would do that and then vary it on purpose, or, some songs, like there's a song on there called Flying. I said, this kind of, it sounds like the Beatles and Elvis Costello to me, and I'm just going to go with it, and I think it's a fun song. I like that I did that.
But I think people want to have it's really hard because we hear things, right?
Yeah.
That stick as an earworm or whatever you call it.
Yeah,
it's like ning, 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 ning. And there's something in there that just you're inspired by it.
Yeah. Oh
and
my God.
Inspiration is good. And I think Tom Petty, I think he was inspired by so many and he inspired so many.
Yes.
He carried the torch. He was like one of those people, him and Dave Stewart. Dave
Stewart, the Eurythmics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were buddies. Come on. There's certain people that they just did that. And it's okay.
Yeah. Annie Lennox. Holy cow.
You're going to talk about Annie Lennox now?
Oh,
you want to talk about, I think she was, is one of the actual best blues singers. If she went blues, she would
no kidding.
kill it.
Wow.
That way. But she is who she is.
Oh, she's
think about her. Her voice, she did, oh God, I'm sorry right now. My brain is still foggy. So,
It's okay.
The guy that, the church thing, she did a Grammy Awards, presentation with him, sang with him. I really hate that I can't remember it, but it was insane. It was insane and it's bluesy. The church thing. Oh God. Oh, I can't stand it. I'm going to Google it while we talk, but
okay.
It was incredible. It was incredible. What she did. I grew up with her and I never knew why I was so into certain musicians. Simply Red.
Right? Oh my God, his voice. Fantastic.
Right? I didn't understand why I liked all these people. Well, because they are true R&B and true blues artists.
Yeah. That was a real, I didn't realize it until I heard that Zeppelin was a blues band and Pink Floyd had things.
Hosier.
Oh my God. Hosier. Oh yeah, sure. Okay.
That was when she said, take me to church. I put a spell on you. They did that.
God. No kidding.
So they did that at Grammy Awards, whatever year that was. But I always knew that. And it was when I watched that, I went, that's why in the 80s, I liked her and Simply Red because they were blues.
They had that edge.
They did.
Yeah.
Simply Red has that R&B. I don't think R&B is where it is. Where it is now is not where it came from.
True. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's wrong what we're labeling. Here's the R&B label. I'm like, no. But we do have some up and coming R&B artists that are from the old school days that are fresh and new, like Aloe. They're so, it's a weird time, but I like it. I like it.
Uh-huh.
And I like when, like what you were talking about, how original can you be? I think that if you have a destiny to write this song and you feel it and you're going to write it down and whatever, and it's like, oh crap, it sounds like this a little bit here or there. Who cares?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we still want to hear something we're familiar with and something new at the same time. And that's
You know,
fusion food. That's why we eat
fusion
fusion food.
food. Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So I
I've
don't
also been, I was just going to say, I've also been exposed to a great extent to very seriously experimental music, like John Cage, if I could say. Like, are you familiar with John Cage at
know.
all?
No, I'm
Okay,
going to have to go
so
look him up now.
we're talking about the kind of people that, they would open the piano and they would put thumbtacks inside and rubber and they would make create a piece, and it would become something that it was a statement. And to all intents and purposes, there are a number of artists that went in that direction as sort of not just to be anti, but actually to explore. I mean, they call it modern music, but now it's, 80 years old, 100 years old. But Henry Parch was another, Harry Parch. I'm trying to remember his name. But
Okay, let's just look at Peter Gabriel doing video.
Peter Gabriel. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Clearly he influenced me, I think, it's without a doubt.
Yeah, you do have you do.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry,
some
you
of the
do.
stylings.
I'm not saying sorry. I mean
No.
that in a good way. No,
It's
but
true.
that's the thing. It's important. And I think when we look at all of this creativity in the world, yeah, somebody inspired you. It's not
Mhm.
an influence. Go for it. Who
Yeah,
cares? Because it feels good to the listener to have a little grounding of knowing where you're going. Like
I think
when you're on
so.
a road trip, you feel good when you're leaving town. You know why? Because you know your town. And then all of a
Yeah,
sudden it's like, holy crap, we're off, and then you feel like, oh, it's not so bad. Then, you may have a
yeah, get used to it. Or you
yeah,
got,
breakdown or whatever. But familiarity is a good thing,
uh-huh.
and spontaneity at the same time. And it's this balance. That's what music is all about. And
Seems to be,
having
yeah.
holding all the, I just, I don't know how to be completely, I mean, I have to write things about parks, right? They have
Mhm.
this many trails. They have this, that. I can write about our experience, but the reality, how much is our experience different from somebody else? You go to Sequoia National Park,
Right.
you jaw drop because of these giant sequoia trees, right?
Oh my God. Speaking of
How
which, yeah.
much, I mean, how many ways can you say jaw drop? As a food writer too, how many times can you say delicious?
Uh-huh. Yeah,
And how
right.
many times you can come up with a new word that doesn't resonate with your audience?
Yes. Right.
So what's the point? Like, so we're in this weird creative zone. Like you can add a dash of new, a little bit of familiarity, but what
Yeah.
comes out of you is actually just got to be what comes out of you, you know?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I
I
love
mean,
your music. I'm so excited about knowing your
thank you.
music.
So that means
Can
the world to
you
me,
have
of course.
any idea, like when you just find new music that you're just like, dude, this is so cool. I'm just going to keep listening to it. Like I do
Well,
with all
that's
musicians that come on our show. I end up like, I listen to that. Nancy and I do. And then when we go on the road, we're pissed at the radio stations. We're like, put it on, change it to our people because it's good.
Uh-huh.
And
Well,
we just call
that's
you
good.
our
I think
people.
that's what it gives exposure to music that, I mean, I don't think, I mean, as coming up in an era when, there was the big artists, the famous artists, and then we're all aspiring to be like them or emulate them or something, but then there was a period of, there was a shift where like the people I was studying with about music business were going, well, 1,000 true fans and, think in this direction and you'll attain it more likely. It's like, instead of expecting Columbia to sign you or it's do or die, or I don't know. There's so many approaches, but I just feel like I'm happy when people connect with it. And that's what I live and I live to
Oh, I want to
see
ask
that.
you this. I
Mm-hmm.
was talking about this with a transformational life coach the other day.
Ah,
And we talked about facing fears so people follow their dreams because our
Hmm.
brains are so negatively negative. They
Hmm.
are
Hmm.
because of fight or flight syndrome and everything.
Right, right.
And we
Butterflies.
were talking about this and we were talking about, she says, we have to focus on joy. And I said, I agree, man. I do everything about it being happy, but not like to take people out or anything like that. It's about,
Hmm.
I want to be happy. I love every second of my job, so I can work pretty much 20 hours a day.
That's
I'm
cool.
tired, but I'm happy as punch,
Yeah, yeah.
until I have fevers and then I get weird. Like, so
Then you,
sorry you're on a show where I get weird, but it's actually no different.
it's
But
adding to the creativity, you know.
yeah, it's just, little hot flashes, like really weird. Maybe it is that. Maybe, God, is this all about life, midlife crisis? Maybe I'm going through that. Holy crap. But,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
no, we talked about joy
Yes.
and that is the key. And
Yeah.
songs can be sad. You have sad songs. You
Yes.
have good songs. You have every emotion in there. And I think we all need those in times of our lives. And we also want to feel because our life is so crazy. And
Mhm.
it's so
Yeah.
important for music to bring us back to feeling and reconnecting and going for joy. I think she's
Mm.
right. We should be aspiring to joy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that,
Yeah. I
you
think
know,
that too. I think that too. The
it's
things that
hard when you're creative because you see so much shit out there. You're like, okay, how to find joy out there? But it's true, it's hard for
yeah.
everyone.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, we live, I mean, there's so many, there are viewpoints and I think we, we are manifestors, if you will. I mean, we're always bringing something about or something's coming to us and we're doing what we do with it. We're
Mm.
responding to it, I mean, it's
I,
just, I
I,
think it's just the way life is. Yeah.
I don't want to leave without asking you about
Yeah.
what you do for Tourette's syndrome and going in and communicating with people on this because I think it's also
Mm.
still very um not talked about. Boston Legal, it was when the TV
Yeah,
show
they
Boston.
had the fellow that did the takes.
Yeah, yeah. Hands, right? Hands.
I can't
And
remember
he
what
brought
his name.
his name was Hands in that because
Okay.
he kept moving his hands, which was
Hands.
part of it, right?
Yeah, right, right.
And so that was his nickname. And I saw that what you do on your site and everybody, Stephen DiJoseph.com, DIJoseph.com. So
Hmm.
Stephen with a
Yeah,
PH. He's got a PH now. There you go.
that's correct for
We
balance.
all
Yeah.
do, right? But anyway, but Tourette's, what you do on that, can you talk a little bit about that before you go? Because I think that's really, I know I've kept you for a long time, but,
Well, I've enjoyed every
before you
second.
go,
Appreciate it.
oh, I
Um,
have
uh,
too. But
yeah.
yeah, please do tell people what you do.
Also, for me, Tourette's, I mean, Tourette's and music showed up almost simultaneously, and I talk about that. And I made a short film, which they can see on my website, under the film. It's basically, for 10 years, I didn't know what it was. It started around 6 and around 16, I heard the word Tourette's for the first time. By that time, I had integrated like the Tourette's and the music, and I thought it was all part of the same fabric, if you will. But it's challenging because the tics, I'm going to put this I'm trying to give you a synopsis with the time we
Mm-hmm.
have, but the synopsis of it is that I think living with it without knowing what it was gave me some sense of integration, because it wasn't labeled and it was, it had challenging aspects of it. I was, I would curse or would make noises and people are, what the hell are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know, and then I go play the piano or, it just seemed, but I think more needs to be taught. My mission is to talk about neurodiversity and creativity, and because they're joined together. I've seen it when I made this film. I saw it in Hollywood. I saw it all over the place, and in all different, in all walks of life, and all careers. I think there's an element with these neurodiverse conditions that drives energy and creativity, which is really important to recognize besides the challenges.
I'm so glad you say all that because it's International Creativity Month, everybody, by the way. And we've been doing shows on the, I mean, everything we do is that anyway, but I think there's nothing you can do. I'm sorry, hold on one second.
Saying calling for dinner.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, apparently. I think this is really important to talk about, Stephen,
Yeah.
because maybe people in life, in business, and just communication with friends may not understand others. So, and I love that you talk about the creative brain. We talk about this with it, it's International Creativity Month. I say creativity
cool.
is every day, right?
Wow.
But
Cool.
to talk about this is so important because I think, like, I know my brain is not normal. Like, I know that, well, Nancy will tell me and my friends will, because I can, like, I say Janis Joplin sings in a chord versus a single note. You know what I mean?
Interesting. I
always thought that, right?
Her voice is like, oh my God.
Yeah, but it's like a
so
chord.
Amazing. Yeah, it's a chord. It is a chord. She might know what you mean.
And who does that?
You can hear the harmonics in her voice.
Yeah, she's got three things going on. And my brain will work in, like, I'll talk to someone and say, like, podcast, I'm behaved, right? I've got my thing. I'm supposed to do this. But like, if I talk to Nancy, within not even 20 seconds, I would have said 5 things. Because my brain thinks in multiple facets in a very weird way that I don't, and it's not, it's ADH, it's DAD, but I get my stuff done. I'm a functioning citizen. I'm not weird. However, I can deliver 5 things in one place at one time, which is not necessarily good on regular communication. But my friends know this. They're like, okay, she's onto this now and she's onto that. Because I'm like, boom, move on. So I don't know if it's Tourette. I don't know what it is. And I really don't care. Because it's just, I'm busy. My brain is always going in a weird platform. And this is not about me. I think there's a lot of us who have brain things happening, but we're creative people.
Yeah.
And I think we should start celebrating creative people a little bit more because we want to move out of what's going on with climate change and from, fossil fuels to electric cars. Okay. Guess what? You need creativity there.
Yeah.
I don't care. Whatever change happens in the world is fueled by creativity.
Without a doubt.
What do you think?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. That's why I say, obviously, the obvious places are the arts, but it's way beyond the arts. But the arts have a way of opening people up to things that they might not be open to before, That's why.
Well, I don't know what it is. What's up with my brain? And I do have a propensity to tell people where to go. So, maybe that's a little touch of happiness there, but it's okay. But it is. Yeah. So Tourette's has that creative gene. That's the thing.
Without a doubt. I'm certain of it. I
love that.
And each particular condition has their challenges, which is part of, figuring out how to work with it, It's not easy sometimes. It's just.
Does it help you in a way? Now I've forgotten 100% the Yes song that you did, right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, Roundabout.
Thank you, Roundabout, because now I'm all like run around, roundabout.
Run around.
Now it's all gone out of my head. I'm not stupid about Yes. I do know about Yes. I do know their songs and I do know their music. But anyway, when you perform and you did that recording, and you think about Tourette's, is there a thing of being in a zone that's like to be able to do that?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Is there a zone factor for you to be able to be in that? I don't actually, it doesn't matter if you're the Tourette's or not. Like, how the
Yeah.
hell do you do that and stay there and like deliver for that length of time of insane amount of music, right? This insane
Well,
thing
this,
that you just
yeah,
did.
it
Yeah.
is.
So is there a zone and does having Tourette's help you understand the zone? You know what I mean?
Yes, yes, I do. I do know what you mean. I don't, I would say that, one of the metaphors I use is that Tourette's is like the river is flowing and the river never stops. It just gets diverted, and say the same thing with, I think, neuro firings and, in a condition like Tourette's where there's, extracurricular motor functions or things are out of whack. So anything that I think that in that condition that one loves or focuses on helps them emotionally, helps them energetically. I don't know that I can't say it's going to stop Tourette's because it hasn't stopped it in me. And sometimes when I'm playing, I'm ticking too. And so that became for me, that became part of my style. It's like,
wow.
That's why I wrote a piece called Tourette's. It's
Yeah.
exactly,
No,
there's a
but
piece.
yeah.
I said,
Wow.
I was being interviewed. How does it affect your music and creativity on one of these stations? And I was saying like, well, here's a piece of music I wrote. Eventually, that's what I came to. I said, I'm just going to demonstrate it, and people really get it. They love it. Turns out to be something, and it stems back from, it's kind of funny, but you watch Charlie Chaplin and you watch these guys and then you hear stories about their life and it's like, did they have something going on? Because even these cartoons from 1938 that have these ongoing, like one thing turns and shifts into another and bumps into another thing that creates a new thing. And it's almost like it's part of life and like is being exemplified in these conditions,
I think that people, when they think of Tourette's, they immediately think that it's like this free license to swear at people. That's
well,
what I
I
think.
know in South Park, Cartman thought he,
Yeah, you know what I
yeah,
mean? It's like I honestly feel like we already have that in this country, but not really.
right, yeah,
I
yeah,
grew up in places where you weren't allowed and you'd go to jail,
right,
as a visitor there or et cetera, or even resident. And
yeah,
so it's not funny. You think it's funny, but it's not. And it's hard. And, we all think, oh, free license, but it's not. To
right.
be in a professional world. In music, does that give you a little bit of a breather from like if, corporate
Well,
America is hard?
I always, well, I guess, for me, I kind of joke about it when I'm performing, like saying, well, Tourette's is famous for, this being the cursing disorder. And I say, but I don't freaking do that. And, I just say stuff that I use humor to drive things home
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
my performances, like in between the pieces. And I think it makes people more receptive to stuff that I play that's a little more out there, like where did that come from, but there's a story behind it for
So
me.
yeah, so do you have to tell people like before you perform, like, hey, this is what's up beforehand in
Yeah,
case?
I generally do like like it's a concert. They already know because they go to my website and it's there. It says music, film, Tourette's, so it's like, yeah, I mean, that's why I'm a, what's the word? A living museum, I'm an advocate because I'm talking about it in public. So even though I'm not talking about the science of it, they know already, now it took time for me to bring that forward. And it was
Oh, I
the
bet.
great help of a friend who's a really good marketer. He said, this is like this is way back before people were all talking about it on YouTube. And he's like, this is like a superpower. It's like an advantage. I want you to think of it that way. I'm like, okay. And as I started to think of things that way, and I brought things forward in performances, it became clear that it was really important, to other people besides myself.
I hate to say this, but I almost forgot to bring it up on the show. That's why I was like, before you go, we got to talk about this because I'm so into your album right now. So it's like in your album,
it means the world.
So I know it. I'm like, I almost forgot. And that, I knew that.
It's not a bad thing. I think
when we were booking on the show, I was like, I knew this is what I was like, oh crap, sorry, flu brain, but,
well, I appreciate it.
I sound like I have Tourette's more than you do,
no.
On today's show. I mean,
well,
I'm just saying it's very not talked about. Like this is a topic that everybody has, like, and I think it's almost Hollywood, the Hollywood style. Like I said, immediately hands from, Boston Legal, etc. And you were talking about, the South Park.
Right.
So I don't think I really understood much of it until it was pop culture and in our Hollywood stuff. So I'm glad we're talking about it, and I'm really appreciative that you're willing to talk about it too.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I sort of feel like I don't know if I want to use the word forced, but it was so pronounced, if I got on stage, people thought, well, what's, I don't know. I think it's the timing that it seemed, I guess I'm in a time and in a place where talking about it is important, and people want to hear about it, they don't want you to hide it,
Well, maybe we're getting better, even though it seems really worse out in the world, right?
Yeah, I was listening to someone's post that they talk about all the stuff that's going on. I'm going, if you go back to the beginnings of humankind, you will find conflicts, and you will find domination, and you will find war, and and you will find, like, think about the times of London in 1800s. The stuff that was going on. I was like, that stuff, it's not going on the same way. It's still going on. I mean, it's like, there are improvements, I think overall you still have attitudes of domination and control and power. And that's just,
well, we call that just basic assholery.
Assholery.
Sorry, that's my word of the day. But honestly, you're right. Right. Yes. I mean, I just did interviews last few days. I mean, no wonder I'm sick. Of the Great War of Civilization, of, here we go. And the Vietnam War. I've just done one war after the other. And all of them are repetitive wars, no matter how you mean for
purpose. Yeah. Financial.
Yeah. There's, don't go me.
Don't get me started.
Don't start me.
Don't
yeah.
Me started.
But we are repeating history.
Yeah.
However, in some ways, on shedding the light, like you're saying, we are talking about things in some ways that we've never talked about. We are making progress.
Yeah.
The world, this whole idea that the world is not getting better is I disagree. I think, yes, we've screwed up a ton of stuff, but I also believe we're making some headway in certain ways. Now, I do not believe we should shut down what comedians say, because if we do that, you're never going to know the truth, because comedians will always tell you the truth, and they're funny, and they get us through the darkest of times, just even laughing at our own bad crap. So I'm just going to say that. That's my own personal opinion, and I'm allowed to say it.
Yeah.
And we're allowed to, and we need to use that.
Yes.
Music. And you being on our show, being able to talk about Tourette syndrome, to talk about things that, all of that is just huge. We didn't have that ability, so
much so, yeah,
years ago. And I appreciate that. So thank you so much.
My
Stephen, this
pleasure.
has been so much fun having you on
Yeah,
the
Lisa, I
show.
really appreciate it, you know.
And thank you for dealing with me with my little flu brain or whatever it
Ah,
is.
hey, you know,
It's
sometimes it does stimulate other parts of our brain that we're
hey,
sleeping. You know,
I know. I think a flu brain is kind of cool. We're kind of,
blue
you
brain.
know,
That's the first time I've heard it put together that way.
yeah,
That's
it
cool.
feels good. It feels
Yeah.
good. But everyone, StephenDiJoseph.com. It's Stephen with a PH. Stephen and then DiJoseph.com, and also go to DekoEntertainment.com. That's Deko's Deko. And of course, keep up with us at BigBlendRadio.com. Stephen, thank you so much.
My pleasure, Lisa. Thank you.
Making my way down on easy street, walking strong on my happy feet, grinning ear to ear from the inside out.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio. Keep up with our shows at BigBlendRadio.com.